Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. This is a deck profile that I've talked about doing a couple of times now. This is going to be more of a pure TG deck. We have covered TG and its combo line in the past. However, when we've played it before, we've been mixing it with Snake Eye, and it's really been a primarily Snake Eye deck with a TG engine splash in. You would often go for the TG combo line turn one if you had the ability to and go off relatively uninterrupted. But a lot of the time, those games would kind of come down to you utilizing the Snake Eye engine. So I wanted to have a build here where we relied less on that. The other thing I'm not a huge fan of regarding the Snake Eye TG variant is that, and I actually talked about this I think quite extensively in the last video we covered TG, that when you're playing Snake Eye TG, it often feels a lot of the time like you're just playing a less consistent or really worse Snake Eye deck. Now you might say, well Lex, you still have a Snake Eye monster here, the Snake Eye Ash, as well as the Diabells, and that is true because the Diabell slash Wanted, that's not, that one's Wanted. Diabell slash Wanted is still going to be a one-card combo line for the TG deck, and that combo line does still require a Snake Eye Ash. So I decided to ultimately keep the one of the copies of Snake Eye Ash in there, as well as the 3 Diabell and 2 Wanted. This is a post-banless build I'm testing, but really, of course, the only thing that's super affected by this deck is the third copy of Wanted, or I guess the third rather, Snake Eye Ash if you were on the Snake Eye TG variant. But really, if you're on that variant, then these cards getting semi'd really means you have more room for TG stuff if you would like to play it. So a lot of the main differences, as well as not having a Snake Eye engine here between this and the previous build, is that we are leaning more into the TGs, obviously. So we're on a full playset of Rocket Salamander. If you're going to play pure TG, I do definitely recommend 3 of this card. It is the TG that you would most always want to see when opening. We're still playing Tank Grub, just a single copy of that. Screw Serpent we played before as well. We now have 2 copies because this card is not bad to open. Or rather, it's not bad to have another copy for follow-up plays, is really more accurate. As far as the new TG cards, new to the deck that we were not playing before, we have Booster Raptor and Gear Zombie. These are both level 1 TG extenders that can both special summon themselves if you control a TG monster, Gear Zombie being a tuner and Booster Raptor not. Sometimes you do want the level 1 to be a tuner, sometimes not. A lot of the time though, it ends up really not mattering because you can Rocket Salamander into Tank Grub, which can be a tuner or a non-tuner. So there you go. In addition to that, we have 3 copies of TG Limiter Removal. This is going to be the TG search spell, which is discard 1 to add 2 TGs with different names from your deck to your hand. So if you don't open Wanted or Diabell for the 1-card combo line, then you want to be opening ideally Rocket Salamander plus one of the extenders in order to go for the same combo line. Actually, it's literally the exact same combo line. You, again, in that case, would just need to open 2 cards instead of 1. Or, again, you could just open the TG Limiter Removal. So even though we have opted out of the Snake Eye package, we still have a lot of ways into our main TG combo line, right? For the extract here, we've obviously taken out pretty much all of the links that were relevant to the Snake Eye line. The only non-synchro monster we have here is Sprite Elf, which doesn't even really honestly come up that often. And in turn, we've really just double, or in Dragonar's case, triple down, basically added an additional copy of a lot of the TG synchros that we need for comboing, right? Mighty Striker, Star Guardian, and Over Dragonar. There are other TG extract monsters that you could play. For example, instead of the 3rd Over Dragonar, I could be playing a, where is it? Where's Power Guardian? It's a level 5. Here it is. Could be, or Gladiator. We're going to be playing Power Gladiator. This card doesn't really do anything relevant, but sometimes you just need a level 5 non-tuner body. Similarly, instead of Star Guardian, I could also be playing Wonder Magician instead. This card does actually have some pretty decent utilization for popping a spell and trap card, and then, of course, like all the TG Synchro tuners, you get to quick Synchro during your opponent's turn. I would still play 2 Mighty Striker, even if you're opting out of the extra Star Guardian over Dragonar for Wonder Magician and Power Gladiator. But the only real reason to play Power Gladiator instead of Over Dragonar is if very occasionally the extra points and trampling, like 1 in every literally 100 games, might come up. The Wonder Magician, I think, would come up more often, and in hindsight, I maybe do wish I would have played one over the 2nd Star Guardian, but I think the 2nd Star Guardian, Actually, you know what? No, I do like playing 2 Star Guardian because the ability to do turn 1 plays that aren't the full combo is pretty reliant on Star Guardian. So we'll also cover in this video what to do if you only open like Rocket Salamander by itself and nothing else. A lot of the time you end up making Star Guardian plus an over Dragonar and then passing to your opponent's turn and then going into a level 10 synchro during their turn, right? You could go for Baron de Fleur, but I found, and we're definitely going to see a game where I do this, that Chaos Angel is so good to go into in that kind of a situation, right? Because the Star Guardian is light and the over Dragonar is dark. So not only can you synchro for Chaos Angel on your opponent's turn and banish a card on their field, like in the middle of their plays, this Chaos Angel that you make will not be affected by monster effects, nor will it be able to be destroyed by battle. And there are a lot of decks that just can't deal with that. There are a lot of decks that just cannot answer a Chaos Angel made using both a light and a dark monster there. We are also still going for the Calamity Luck. I know some people are probably saying this and being like, boo, and I get it, I understand totally. If you don't want to play the Calamity Luck, you could also play Cosmic Blazar Dragon is a very good alternative. But honestly, between the two, for me, I said this last time too, I'm just going to wait for Calamity to get banned and then use the materials to then make Blazar. Blazar is an extremely powerful card. I'm not saying it's bad at all, but compared to Calamity, it's like, you know, I could Blazar and do, you know, 1 negation, or I can make Calamity and negate literally everything my opponent is going to play for the entirety of their turn. And when you think about it that way, the answer feels pretty obvious which one is better. So we are opting for the Calamity. You could also, of course, just not play like Sprite Elf or the 3rd Over Dragon or something and play both Blazar and Calamity. I definitely think that would not be a bad option, but I don't have Blazar yet, so I have not made it. As far as another TG extract monster that we have not included here, you might be wondering why we're not playing the Link 3, the TG Trident Launcher. I did think about it. This effect reads crazy when you look at it, right? Like, being able to special a TG from the hand, deck, and graveyard each, but I don't know. This reads like a really good effect, but honestly, you're probably just going to make this with using 3 TG monsters anyway, right? It's not like we're link climbing in this deck, so when I think about it that way, I'm like, okay, is it worth it to use 3 TGs on the field to go into Trident Launcher and then summon 1 from each hand, deck, and graveyard? I'm like, I feel like the majority of the time it's just not. Like, I just don't see this card really ever coming up. So it does offer target protection, but then again, so does Sprite Elf, which honestly will come up, I think, in a lot more situations, right? Like, it's so easy to have Mighty Striker and then literally any other monster make Elf and then just bring back the Mighty Striker. So I think Elf just ends up being better than TG Trident Launcher in this case here. Yeah, I guess the only other thing I have to really say about the build here is that even if you're playing the pure variant, you still have a lot of room for disruption, right? Be it hand traps or just good going second tools in general. So that is another definite strength of this deck, right? A lot of people, when they think of these long form synchro combo decks, they think of like these all engine piles that have like no room for hand traps. So again, TG could not be further from the truth. Another reason why I very much like this deck is you have a lot of flexibility in that regard. So alright, I think I've yapped enough about this deck. Oh, by the way, also, yeah, you might notice the Sprite Elf in the extra deck. So, while I did initially play this deck in the Dual Triangle event as the Synchro option to finish out my missions, I did that on stream, we are actually going to be playing this on a regular ranked ladder. So, this looks like a bit of an event deck, but again, we are going to regular ranked. So, let me break down the list card by card, and then we'll start watching those duels. So, we're on 3 Effect Veiler. We got 1 TG Booster Raptor, 1 TG Tank Grub, 1 TG Gear Zombie, 3 TG Rocket Salamander, 1 Snake Eye Ash. We got 3 Maxi, 3 Ash Blossom and a Joy Spring, 2 TG Screw Serpent, 3 Diabellstar the Black Witch, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 1 141, 2 Triple Tactics Talent, 1 Sinful Spoils of Subversion Snake Eye, 3 TG Limiter Removal, 1 Original Sinful Spoils Snake Eye, 1 TG All Clear, 2 Call by the Grave, 1 Cross-Eyed Designator, 2 Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils, 3 Infinite Permanents, and then 1 TG Close. And that'll be it for the main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 2 TG Mighty Striker, 1 TG Hyper Librarian, 2 TG Star Guardian, 3 TG Over Dragonar, 1 TG Blade Blaster, 1 Baron de Fleur, 1 Chaos Angel, 1 Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity, 1 Crimson Dragon, 1 TG Glaive Blaster, and then 1 Sprite Elf. So there is our list. Let's watch some duels now. Okay, so our first game we're going to be playing against Branded, and as usual, I'm going to start with a game that shows off a typical turn 1 combo line to give you an idea of what this deck is trying to do. It's going to be a bit of a longer combo line. Also, I'll get to show you the combo line without using Diabell or Snake Eye Ash. I'm going to lead with the limited removal here, pitch my extra Screw Serpent to get Rocket Salamander, and then the other Screw Serpent. You don't have to add Screw Serpent here. I would have added Booster Raptor, but I already had it in hand, and we add Screw Serpent from deck to hand later in the combo line anyway, so I'll point it out when we do that. But if you don't have any, like, let's say you open TG Limit Removal and then, like, all hand traps, you would want to add Rocket Salamander plus Booster Raptor, or Gear Zombie. It could be either or, honestly. If you do add Gear Zombie, you're going to want to sack it off for the Tank Grub. I mean, you could also just sack off the Rocket Salamander because, again, Tank Grub can also be used as a non-tutor. So it actually doesn't really matter in that regard. But anyway, we're going to Synchro Tank Grub and our other level 1 for the Mighty Striker. Activate both effects. Going to summon out the token. Chain Block the Striker to not get Ash Blossomed on the search there. Going to activate TG All Clear. Use TG All Clear to pop the TG Striker. Now, normally, if you didn't have access to Screw Serpent already, this is where you would add it. I already have not only access to Screw Serpent, but like literally every other TG monster at this point, so I'm just going to add an extra Rocket Salamander. But again, assuming you didn't open any TG monsters at all, aside from Lunar Removal and when it searched you, this is where you would add Screw Serpent with the All Clear effect. Once the Mighty Striker goes to the yard, we can use this effect to send a TG Close the counter trap to the graveyard. Extra normal on the All Clear for Screw Serpent. Screw Serpent bring back the Rocket Salamander. We're going to sync Rocket Salamander and Screw Serpent for TG Over Dragonar. Put it in the extra monster zone. Okay, 2 very, very important things about this step of the combo line when you're summoning the Over Dragonar. 1, don't use the token as a material. Do not do it, because we want to get the full summons possible off of Over Dragonar. And also, we're going to need the token later in the combo line for an extra material. So, if you only had the 4 TG monsters in the graveyard and you use the token, you would be 1 material short of doing the full combo. Second very important thing about this step, you have to put the Over Dragonar in the extra monster zone to be able to summon out 4 TG monsters to do the full combo. Again, if you miss out on any one of the bodies, you will not be able to full combo. So make sure that when you summon Over Dragonar, you're using Screw Serpent plus Rocket Salamander, and that you put it in the extra monster zone. Don't use the token, put it in the EMZ. I gotta stress those. Those are both very, very important things to do when comboing with this deck. Otherwise, you will not be able to do the full combo. So now we're going to use Screw Serpent with the token to make Hyper Librarian. It's very important to make the Librarian before anything else here, because that way you'll be able to, well, get draws off of your subsequent synchros. So Rocket Salamander, we're going to use the other effect to bring back Screw Serpent and then go for Star Guardian. We get to draw off Hyper Librarian, and then Star Guardian will add the Screw Serpent back from the graveyard to the hand again. Get our draw off the Hyper Librarian. We can then use Star Guardian effect to special the Screw Serpent from hand. We'll sync it with the Tank Grub, which again can be used as a non-tuner, to make our second Over Dragonar. If you played Power Gladiator, you can make that here instead if you wanted to. Now we're going to sync Mighty Striker and our 2 Over Dragonars in order to make the TG Glaive Blaster. It's our big level 12. We're going to get 1 last draw off of Hyper Librarian before syncing it with the Star Guardian in order to summon out TG Blade Blaster. Okay, now we're going to activate Glaive Blaster's effect to banish our Blade Blaster. We can then use the other Glaive Blaster effect to bring the Blade Blaster back, as well as use TG Close to set itself from the graveyard. You do need to do this now in order to make sure you have the counter trap set up. Alright, we're passing over to our opponent's turn, but we're not done with the combo yet. During your opponent's draw phase, it does have to be during the draw phase exactly, by the way, so make sure that you're toggled on going into your opponent's turn. Extremely important. Again, it has to be during the draw phase for a reason we'll see in just a moment here. You're going to want to use Blade Blaster's effect, banish the Mighty Striker out of your graveyard, and that'll also cause Blade Blaster to banish itself until the next standby phase. So Glaive Blaster is going to bring back Mighty Striker, then Blade Blaster brings itself back. That's why you have to do it during the draw phase, so that way Blade Blaster can bring itself back. I'm going to use Mighty Striker literally as soon as I have the opportunity to during my opponent's turn in order to make the Crimson Dragon. Another very important note about comboing here, right? Crimson Dragon, you don't want to chain this to any card effect your opponent is activating. Wait until there's an open game state and you're past priority. Again, you'll need to toggle on to do this, and wait for that to use the Crimson Dragon effect. The reason is that the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity is a when, not an if. So if you summon King Calamity in the middle of a chain link, it will not activate, because the last thing to happen won't be its synchro summon, it'll be whatever else was on the chain link. So make sure that you're only activating Crimson Dragon into an open game state and not responding to an opponent's card effects with it. Now we'll use Crimson Dragon, target the Glaive Blaster, summon out the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. Its effect will activate, our opponent can't use cards or effects, and then they'll just end up conceding. Because they can't activate anything, and we have 8k damage on the field. So if you were playing Blazar Dragon, you would actually do literally entirely the exact same combo line. It's just that at the very end, instead of King Calamity, you summon the Cosmic Blazar instead. Which, again, you can see why I prefer the Calamity. Again, Blazar, while an extremely good card, represents one negate, while Calamity represents all of them. So, a little dirty, some might say, but you know what? It's Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's go ahead and take a look at our next duel. Alright, so our next opponent is going to be on a Zodiac deck, and this game is going to be showing a little bit more of what to do if you don't open like a full combo line, right? Like, as you can see here, we definitely did not open too much, but I do have access to Rocket Salamander, which means I have some amount of plays. I'm going to lead by normaling the Joel and then sending it off for Original Sin, getting the Rocket Salamander off of Sin. Rocket Salamander will sack itself for Screw Serpent. Screw Serpent brings back Rocket Salamander. Now I'm going to sync the two of these, Screw Serpent and Rocket Salamander, and just go immediately for Over Dragonar. Over Dragonar is going to bring back the two TGs in the yard, the Screw Serpent and the Salamander, which I'll sync yet again for the TG Star Guardian. Star Guardian can wheel the Rocket Salamander back to hand. We'll set 2, and then pass the opponent. So, yeah, definitely not as extensive or as impressive looking as a full turn 1 combo, but this is going to be the setup you'll go for if you open, again, Rocket Salamander and nothing else. The reason that we don't see, you might be wondering, well, why don't you just make Baron de Fleur right now? It's because Over Dragonar locks us into TG summons for the rest of the turn. Normally, I'm not a fan of archetype locks at all. However, with TGs, the archetype lock really doesn't end up mattering that much because all of your synchro tuners can synchro on your opponent's turn anyway. And in fact, you get to make generic stuff during your opponent's turn, which can end up being pretty good here. So they're going to lead with the Zodiac Thoroughblade, pitching the Barrage draw card. I'm going to use Star Guardian right now, and I talked about this in the deck profile. I'm just going to go for the Chaos Angel here. Not only do I get to banish the Zodiac Thoroughblade that's currently on my opponent's board, but also Zodiac notably doesn't really have many ways to address the Chaos Angel in their deck, like, period, right? Because a lot of the ways they're going to do that, in fact, yeah, I was going to say I think they just concede right now. Although I will say, in the replay, the concession looked like it happened a lot sooner than it did. During the actual duel, my opponent sat and thought for a moment before conceding. Because Zodiac is one of, honestly, many decks that really relies on monsters to be able to out, your opponent's cards, including, big monsters. So, think about it, right? They can't Trident my Chaos Angel, they can't Zeus it, they can't steal it with UDF. They really don't have any way of honestly addressing it at this point, which makes sense why they conceded so quickly. So, yeah, I mean, again, that Star Guardian plus Over Dragonar going into the opponent's turn might not look super impressive, but being able to make Chaos Angel with a light and a dark on their turn is pretty good. And if you ever didn't want to make Chaos Angel, again, you could just make the Baron de Fleur or another generic 10 if you wanted like Shanging for another reason or for some reason instead. But yeah, so wanted to show off what a combo but a non-full combo looked like there as well. Let's take a look at our next duel. Alright, our next game is going to be against Rescue Ace, and worry not those of you who were afraid just to be all turn 1 combos, we are actually going second this game, so. But again, going second not an issue for this deck because we have the ability to play so many hand traps and just disruption tools, right? Again, this hand is actually looking pretty good. We have Diabell, we have Limiter, we have Veiler, and C as well as Screw Serpent. So they're going to lead with Rhoda for Airlifter, normal summon the Airlifter. Note that I did not use Veiler against Airlifter. I've mentioned this before, but I generally don't advise doing that in case they're holding the emergency in hand. Here they're going to add emergency, so they didn't have it, but I still think it was worth it to wait. We can just use the Veiler on the Turbulence later. Going to try to Maxi the original Sin, however they do have cross out for the Maxi, so the minigame is cleared on the opponent's part. They're going to activate the Hydrant effect. Again, you'll notice me not chaining the Veiler here to add Turbulence. Now, Emergency is going to get activated here also for Turbulence. I thought this was really odd to both Hydrant and Emergency for Turbulence here. One of these definitely should have been used to summon the Preventer, I think for sure. But yeah, as soon as the Turbulence is activated, I'm going to just chain the Veiler. Now I don't have to worry about dealing with the set 4, and we are all good there. Alright, they do have the rescue here, so they'll get back the Hydrant. Looks like they're going to then only get off for Link Reaver, I assume? Yeah. Activating the Field Spell Rescue Ace HQ, that will allow them to get a draw here, as that Hydrant was the 4th card. Okay, they are going for the Diabell here. Looks like they top deck that, sending the extra Turbulence to set Wanted before, I believe, linking. Yeah, they link off here in order to summon the, Promethean Princess. So, yeah, looks like Promethean Princess Ambloil is all we're going to end up having to play through, thanks to our well-timed Veiler. Again, I would just use Veiler Imperm on the Turbulence. I would just wait for it, honestly. It's so easy for them to punish you using on just about anything else, so. Okay, top decking the Imperm. Actually, I'm not even going to need that here, so I'll just go ahead and pitch it for the Diabell. Really hoping to use Princess here, and they do, so that's pretty good. If my opponent had not activated Promethean Princess here, I would have simply set Subversion, which actually I'm just going to do anyway. I could have used Subversion to push back the Ambloil, then they would no longer have a Fire Monster and no longer be able to Princess. So, really regardless of whether they use the Princess against Diabell here or not, I was going to be able to answer the Promethean Princess. But I will say I don't think it was correct for them to do that on the Diabell. I think they should have waited. So, now that Promethean Princess is in the Spell Trap, I don't have to worry about anything else. I can limit removal, pitch the Screw Serpent for Rocket Salamander and Booster Raptor. Now here, I'm just going to end up going for the turn 1 combo line yet again. I'm sure there was a slightly different play I could have made to put 8k damage on the board instead, but, you know, I'll be able to knock them down to, I think, 700 life points anyway, and with as few resources they have, like, they're not going to be able to play through me setting up a Calamity Lock, as well as having the counter trap face down, right? So, I don't even think it's really a big deal at all that we don't OTK them here. I don't know, I did some math in the middle of the combo line to try to figure out if at any point I was close. The thing is, though, that Over Dragonar summons in defense mode when it brings monsters back from the graveyard, so it's not like I could just, you know, turn everything to attack mode and then just swing in for lethal. I don't think that would have been enough anyway, looks like. Okay, we're going to make the Hyper Librarian here. I guess there were some extenders I could have drawn into with Hyper Librarian that would have gotten me there. Like the Gear Zombie, I think, might have done it. As far as like being able to put lethal on the board this turn. Yeah, Star Guardian unfortunately only has 100 attack points, so it doesn't really do a lot of getting you to lethal. But even if I had, like, because I thought about, okay, what if I, like, do Over Dragonar plus Hyper Librarian plus Blade Blaster by going, yeah, Star Guardian plus Over Dragonar, but I believe that's actually only 7,200 points of damage. So I think 72/7,300 is about the max I'm going to be able to get off here. Yeah, here I threw out the Wanted, so it would stop asking me to activate it. But yeah, no, we'll make the Blade Blaster. And yeah, I mean, again, this is just the turn 1 combo line. But of course, we will battle before we go to the rest of the combo there. Get in for, yeah, 7,300, leave them at 700. Again, I'm sure I could have sequenced this a little bit differently and found 8k, but I didn't want to overcook and then, you know, screw up, you know, a position where I could win, so I decided to just play a little bit safe. Plus, again, they're in top deck mode. We know their last card, one of their last cards in hand is just another Diabell, so it's like, what are they realistically gonna do under Calamity plus the counter trap? Plus Glaive Blaster is also Disruption, by the way. It can banish extra deck monsters from either side of the field, so as your opponent is setting up, you can definitely just get rid of their stuff too. Again, I'm going to Mighty Striker as soon as I have the opportunity to, but I'm going to wait on the Crimson Dragon for an open board state and not use it in response to any card effects, right? So, yep, open board state, Crimson into the King Calamity. Now, they will get to Preventer here because King Calamity prevents cards and effects from activating on the field. So stuff like Diabell and Preventer that activates in hand, the Calamity actually does not stop. Same for stuff in the graveyard too. So it's not like there's nothing you can do under Calamity, but it is, of course, extremely limited. And when my opponent summons the IP, I'm not going to take any chances. I'm just going to use Glaive Blaster and banish it. Glaive Blaster's extra deck banish, by the way. It can banish monsters summoned from the extra deck. It can do that a number of times up to the number of non-tuner secret materials used for, the Synchro Summon, right? So that means, in our case, it can do it twice, not just once per turn. So even if they had had more follow-up after I banished the IP, somehow, by going for more extra deck summons, we would still have been able to handle those. Oh yeah, plus the counter trap we never used. We never used the counter trap either, so we had an Omni-Negate counter trap available to us as well. So yeah, again, want to show at least one going second game there. We do have one more duel to watch. Let's go ahead and check it out. Our final game is going to be against Punk, which is a very, very cool deck. Surprisingly, not even Gold Pride Punk. It's just a relatively pure Punk list. They are on a Speed Ride package with the triple Terror top there as well. Gonna make the first move here. I've got Gear Zombie and Tank Grub, which I think should be enough for a turn 1 combo line. Basically, if you open the Tank Grub, you do have to normal summon it, because we only play one copy, and you need to go into it as part of your combo line. So if you don't open Rocket Salamander, because you do need Rocket Salamander later, what you can do is you can use Mighty Striker to send to the Rocket Salamander instead of the TG Close. You'll miss out on the counter trap. Oh, well, actually, here, I get to add the TG Close off of Mighty Striker because I already opened All Clear, which I would normally add anyway. However, if you didn't open All Clear, and you also didn't open Rocket Salamander, what you would do here is what I'm about to do, and that's when the TG Striker gets popped, send the Rocket Salamander instead of the Close. That way you'll be able to do the full combo. You won't have the counter trap to protect your combo line during your opponent's turn, but it's worth it to give that up to be able to combo anyway. So I'm going to over Dragonar here for, of course, the 4 bodies. And then they're going to nib me. So this is the major weakness of the deck. Obviously, long-form combo decks generally don't like Maxi, but especially going into a Nibiru. And you do want to make sure you're using Nibiru. Wait until after the over Dragonar. This is the ideal choke point, because not only is it obviously a once per turn that summons a lot of monsters, but it also locks you into TGs for the entire turn. So I've had opponents who have nibbed me before I go into the over Dragonar before. So I just want to make sure that we're all, on the same page, that this is definitely the best point to do it. So I thought by negating Wagon and also having Ash Blossom for any potential follow-up, I might be safe here. But they do have the Instant Contact, as well as the Ascend of Thunder here to just go for an OTK. This is definitely a bit more of an old-school Punk build, using these level 7 non-tuners to make going into level 10 synchros a lot easier. Typically, you would see the opponent on Gold Pride instead, or just Punk in general on Gold Pride instead. But I still very much like the style of Punk build the opponent was using, and as you can see, still quite effective. Well, really it was the Nibiru. But I mainly wanted to show that duel to highlight the key disruption point for this deck, which is very useful knowledge whether you're playing with or against it. So, again, definitely watch for the over Dragonar. After it summons all the bodies, that is the ideal time to Nibiru. So that's going to do it for these duels. As always, everyone, I want to thank you for watching all of them. So that'll be it. Let's move now to our outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for supporting there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.